Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse. And with me is her beatitude, the Right Reverend Belladonna Laveau of the Aquarian Tabernacle Church. Welcome, Lady Belladonna.
Hi, Don. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to get to talk to you.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what I'd like to do is to ask you a few questions and have you answer, which I suppose is kind of obvious because it's an interview. But could we talk a little bit about your career in the pagan world?
Sure. Like my career, I became an initiate very early. I was 20. And so I have been in the pagan community for a very long time. I was trained by a British man who had came over and like met me a couple of days after he got here. He had a bookstore in Dallas, Texas. And so I trained in his store every day. And it was a lot of fun. I really loved that man. And he gave me all the groundwork I needed. And, I have studied a lot of different things over time, but he gave me all of the foundational stuff. He made me memorize all the things. He gave me those good skills that were really hard to find in 1988. I mean, this was pre-internet, Don. We couldn't just go to the internet and say, hey, is there a local witch in my area? You had to run into somebody that was a witch. So I feel very blessed because he poured everything he had into me. And just gave me a really good solid foundation for when the goddess started calling me into the work. And then I've always been a teacher. Like I was the kid in the third grade when we were maybe not third grade, fifth grade, pre-algebra, where they were teaching us to solve for X. And I was like, that makes sense to me. X is basically a question mark. And so I would teach the kids in the things next to me. I just really picked up fast. And I have a way of explaining things that helps people get it. And I don't take 2 hours to explain it either. I'm like right to the point. I'm very fast. So teaching just came really naturally to me. I love teaching. It's very satisfying to watch somebody grow over time. I just told Dusty yesterday, I have a student who has been with me. I mean, it's probably getting close to 10 years now. And she's really coming into her power. Like you can just see it. And it's so satisfying because she's really struggled. Like it's taken her a long time to get there. She's been here longer than a lot of people, but it's so satisfying because it worked so hard, right? So I love that kind of stuff. So I built the college wise seminary and it was online. And that's how Pete met me. He was looking for somebody to run his college. And I get sentimental when I talk about Pete, so y'all are gonna have to excuse me. He was like, I've got this college that I built, but I don't have anybody to run it. And I didn't like the name of it, but I did like the name of the website. Wolstenstein Theological Seminary. I mean, not only is it a huge mouthful, but most people can't remember it. But WiccanSeminary.edu is memorable.
Yes, it is.
So I was like, we merged Wise Seminary and Wiccan Seminary because he didn't actually have a curriculum. He had a state recognized college paperwork. He had the paperwork, but he didn't have a curriculum. So he took my curriculum and his legal infrastructure and merged those together. And now we have Wiccan Seminary, and I built that from the ground up. And I mean, that was 16, 18, 20-hour days for years and working for free and that was a lot of work and putting all my students in on the endeavor. Like the person who is dean now, I've stepped down as dean. The person who is dean now has a master's degree in education and was the dean of education for a decade. And so I'm really proud about the fact that not only did I take this institution and make it work, right? Like it is a successful, viable, it makes money, it pays its bills, it's doing good, but it also has the first paid employee as dean of the seminary. I was like, I need you to be able to do this full time and not have a job at a school. And so we managed to be able to pay her. And that makes me really happy because I don't even draw a paycheck from the church. Like, she's the only person in the church that gets paid. The only person in Wicca I know of that gets paid. It's not something that we usually do, but like a full-time salary.
Yeah.
We pay our teachers, but it's an honorarium. It's not really a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I'm super proud of that. The fact that I get to be the person who is the hierophant of the restored mysteries of Eleusis, that is a huge honor. I've been a follower of Persephone, Demeter, Hecate, Aphrodite. That's my jam, Those are my people. I've always been drawn to those deities. When I was 16, I did a paper on comparative theology about the love goddesses as Aphrodite, Freya, Hathor, and Venus. And that comparative theology when I was 16, I got an A.
Very good.
Thank you. So when I found out that Pete had restored the Eleusinian mysteries and they were doing those, I wanted to be a part of it. And so moving to Seattle and becoming the archpriestess and being able to produce the Eleusinian mysteries every year, that is really what drives me. But the thing I'm probably most proud of is the fact that I've built a college for Wicca that allows us to have Reverend in our titles, because that's why Pete built the college, and that it's state certified and it will continue to operate after I'm gone. I want to reincarnate and be able to go to college.
Yes, indeed.
I want to reincarnate on a different planet than the one that we had when I got here.
I think that's a really, really important point that even in our community, people sometimes lose sight of, that we're not just building these things for now, we're building them for the future.
Yeah. We got to come back here again and again and again. We have to build lasting institutions that will embrace and uplift us when we come back.
Mm-hmm. And if we don't, they won't be there.
Right.
We will be.
I tell people all the time, Don, I really believe that pagans are the superheroes that we're looking for. I really believe that the goddess brought pagans back to the planet when she did, because she knew that we were in this shitstorm, excuse my language, but it's true. All our systems are broken. Have you watched what's going on with the House of Representatives? What a nightmare. So our food supply is threatened, our government, our schools, our hospitals, our everything. And when everything's broken, there's a real paradigm shift happening. And I just believe that the values that we hold dear are going to help shift us from an immoral lifestyle, not because of the who we're having sex with, but because of what we're doing to the planet, the trash, the pollution, the way we live our life every day is very thoughtless.
That's very true.
Right. So I believe that she brought us back to really help fix this problem.
Well, we talked a little bit about Pete and the ATC of which you are the head. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the history of the ATC and Pete and your relationship. Yeah. The first time I ever heard about you, I want to say it was 2004. And Pete mentioned he thought he had found someone to take over the seminary. And
that's funny, that's when we met.
I was there as part of the Witches Across America tour that we did. It was my first time ever visiting the ATC headquarters. And we were having this conversation. He pointed to this little outbuilding and said that was the seminary. I guess it had been a classroom at one time. And whatever materials had or had not been left by the original people were apparently locked in that room. But he was hoping you would breathe life back into it, and you certainly have. And I'm sure that you made him very proud in what were his last years.
Well, he was really frustrated because people weren't turning to him as a teacher anymore.
Mm.
He was, I mean, yeah, he was old. He was old. And most of us want to practice and with people closer to our own age, but I really value the wisdom of our elders. And the thing about it is, I just written my book, Awakening Spirit. I just published my book in 2004. I got my book in November of 2004. And I met Pete. It had to have been before November 2004 because March 2004 is when I met Pete. So it must have been like February because my book's published in 2004. So I met Pete at Spring Mysteries, and he called me and before that, and he said, "We sound a lot alike. I want to see if we're family." And I had never had anybody reach out to me like that before. I've been in the pagan community for a long time, and usually everybody's like, "You think you're a high priestess?" Probably not. It's real. You would think that everybody would want to work together, but really the it's what you said, the ego, when people aren't real confident in what they know, they get defensive. And so people were defensive and they weren't friendly. And the witch wars of the 90s and stuff like that wasn't pleasant for anybody. I don't know how paganism survived personally, but he called me and we talked, and we are both British traditional, and we had so much in common. I fell in love with Pete. We talked for 5 hours the first time we were ever on the phone together. 5 hours. And the myth is it takes 5 hours to fall in love, right? A 5-hour phone conversation. Well, that happened, and he invited me out to Spring Mysteries, and I came out to the festival, and it was just the most amazing thing I had ever seen. I felt like I had somehow stumbled across the opportunity to fly to Greece and to go see the ancient mysteries of Eleusis, but it was in Washington State, and I had no idea that it was happening. And they had been doing it for, well, this is the 37th year, so it's probably 17 years at that time, 17, 16. And I was so impressed that they had managed to pull off that size of a production and all of the things that Pete had done. And Pete was so charismatic, and it was hard not to love Pete. He was funny, he was smart, he had the answer to every question that you could possibly come up with. And he had a guy that would fix every problem that you had. And he was just an amazing man. And so Dusty was the one who kind of solidified our long-term relationship. One day I was talking to Pete, and I got off the phone, and I said, "Man, I worry about him being all alone up there," because he lived in the mother church by himself. And Dusty was like, "That man loves you. You should call him every week." And so I started calling him every Tuesday, and I became his student. And that was really special for both of us, because he didn't want to teach anybody how to draw stars in the air and how to find your patron deity and how to shield and crap. He wanted to teach people how to fight the government for our civil rights.
Yes.
And how to build institutions that last. And he built all these institutions, but he didn't have anybody to run them. And I remember one day he came running down the stairs. He was so excited. He said, "I get it, Bella. I get it. I built all of this stuff, and you have the ability to run all of this stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, it's kind of cool, isn't it?" And because I'm a builder, right? Like I'm a builder's daughter. I build things. I was thinking last night about it's like Tetris. I have all these people in the room and they start talking, and I just put all the places, I just put all the puzzle pieces into place and make it work. It's just my talent, right? I see the patterns and I put them all together and send them off to do their thing. So it was a match that I love Pete. I love everything that he did. He was a hard man for some people to deal with. They called him the man with the steel spine.
Yeah.
He could literally look you dead in the eye and say this and mean it from the core of his being. If you do what I say, you'll win. If you don't do what I say, results will vary. I cannot guarantee results.
And he would be right.
He would be right. And so that was really hard for a lot of people to deal with, but I appreciated it. I don't have to be, I don't have to be the best. I appreciate mastery. I loved what he accomplished, and it's just what an honor to be able to step into those shoes and not try to be Pete, but take it to the next level, because Pete did all this stuff. Oh, you got me all sentimental. I love Pete. Pete did all of this amazing stuff, but that was for the Wicca that we had then, and the paganism that we had then, and the world that we had then. We have a different world today. I just giggle when I think, oh my God, what would Pete do if he ran into Donald Trump? Or what would Donald Trump do if Pete was still on the planet? Because Pete was a formidable foe,
Yes, he was.
So he taught me all these things that I would not have learned on my own, such as, how to look at the Christian periodicals and learn what we need to learn from there, and how to take from other places and apply them to what we have here in order to round out our religion. Because, Don, people don't teach us how to fight the government for civil rights. They teach us how to draw stars in the air and how to cast and call and how to write rituals and all this other stuff. The Catholics and the Mormons, they've been doing this for a long time, and they have a lot of money to do it with. And we are just, still putting flesh on bone in some places of our religion. So he really wanted to teach those kinds of things. And I was honored to be his student.
I think that it's extremely important that we learn that lesson, that it's the practicalities as well as the all the fun stuff that we need to have to build the world we want to have. And Pete certainly understood that, and you understand it as well.
Yeah, he did. He was like, it's all fun to have all of this magic, but when you go to the government and you tell them you've got a coven, they don't understand that word. But if you go to the government and you tell them you have a church, well, then you've got all of these rights. People are like, why do we got to call it a church? Well, because that's the word the government uses. That's the only reason we have to do that. You can call it whatever you want to when you're not talking to the government, right?
Exactly.
And we're a bunch of wild heathens for the most part. I mean, there's some of us who have been to college and are learned, but in our heart, we're still running naked through the woods with horns on our heads, So being able to get all of those wildlings together to accomplish something is difficult, and Pete figured out how to do it. So that was impressive.
They called him Pathfinder for a reason.
They did. I have books and books and books and books, three ring binders, like a whole shelf full of books that are just photographs of things that the IRS was asking when he fought the IRS to get our tax exemption.
Yeah. It's a complex enough process in its way. And I think was much more so at that time.
And he was tenacious.
A long time ago.
Yeah, and he was tenacious. He sent in 153 requests he finally got back a yes and looked at the name on the approval, and it was a Hindu woman. He finally, Pete just knew that people would come and go and jobs would change, right? Yeah. And he got some lady that wasn't Christian, and she approved it, and then he went for the group exemption and got it. But I don't know that I would have tried 153 times. I don't know anybody that would have tried 153 times. I mean, Thomas Edison. Yeah.
He was quite the remarkable man.
He was. Yeah.
So out of all these things that you've done, what would you say is your proudest achievement?
Oh, certainly the school. Certainly the school. I've worked really hard to make the school accessible to everybody. You can go to school. If you want to go to school, we will make a way for you to go to school. And Don, I can tell you a secret. Just between me and you, nobody else, okay?
Yeah.
Nobody's watching, right? No, we are
just a few people around the world.
We are just about to launch an accreditation project. We've been working on that for a very long time.
Yes, you have.
We are just about to have it viable. And thanks to your help with the Corellian stuff and Debbie Jeffries with the Beehive Coven and a couple of other groups that have quality training, right? We've been able to look at what other people are doing and come up with a standardized accreditation format that will allow us to accredit other schools. And even like if you're just teaching Wheel of the Year in your coven and it meets our criteria, you can accredit your coven's classes so that when they take that class from you, it counts for their college credit, and they don't have to take the Wheel of the Year class that we teach at Wilson Steen. That's going to be historic. I'm really proud of the school. Yeah, that's going to take us from just a couple of schools, right, to being able to get chaplaincy in the military and all of these other things. It's like breaking through that glass ceiling that we've been hitting on with a stick for a minute.
That's wonderful.
They've been working really hard on that. That's going to be huge. I'm so proud of them. But yeah, the school, the fact that I've been able to train up enough people and walk away from it. And like, I still go to the officers meetings. They still go, hey, we've got a problem. What do you think? And I give my opinion. But I am not dean anymore. I am a dean emeritus. And so the fact that it's going to outlive me, I'm really proud of that, because not all institutions outlive their founder.
That's very true. And it tends to be especially true in the pagan community, I think.
Yeah, well, one person gets a calling and they do it, and then there's nobody to follow them.
Yeah, I think that there are not many organizations in our community that have had multiple generations of leadership, but there are a few. The ATC is one, and that is such an accomplishment that I don't know that people really understand how very important it is to have a successful transfer of power from let us say one administration to the next.
Well, and it's because the people don't support it either. They're like, that was my person. I don't know you, and so you almost have to fight well, that's how it is in paganism anyway. We've always said that the outside's not going to destroy us. It's our own people, infighting and stuff like that. But man, the transfer of power was so, like, there was this handful of people who were like, oh my God, we're so tired of Pete. We so sick of his, I'm always right bullshit, whatever it is that they had going on. And then there was these other people who were like, we want this person to be the archpriestess. And it's really hard. But there was a lot of people who were like, we don't think that you're going to be able to pull it off. We don't believe the ATC is going to survive. There's people today who were like, the ATC didn't survive. Y'all aren't what you used to be. And I'm like, I don't know, I beg to differ. But, how would you know if you're not here, right? How
That's
would you
true.
know if you're just on the outside? So it's really difficult, Don, because people get emotionally attached to one person and they have to grieve through that. And everybody grieves differently. When you have a whole bunch of people, what we say in the South is that it ain't really a funeral until somebody's yelling in the parking lot, "I love mama more than you," but it's kind of
Yeah.
true. People grieve, and it's all this negativity and all of this pain. And people, I don't think that people know how hard it was and how much effort we put into it, and the days and days of just digging in. And there are pictures of warriors that are holding their sword and they're all like that, cuts on their face, and and
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that was me.
Yes,
that
indeed.
was, that
Well,
was me.
that touches on something that was not a question I was going to ask, but I think it's one that I should ask. When you're in a position of leadership in this community, it can be very difficult. You were just talking about the succession and the turnover, but even without that, it has a lot of aspects of a warrior path, really.
Oh, well, it's when I've been big on the four faces of the goddess, because I don't believe that it's so much I think the mystery of the triple goddess is that there are really four faces, and there's one of them that you can't see because it's the dark moon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that there's maiden, mother, warrior, queen, crone. And
Mm-hmm.
the way that you get to be queen, and this is one of the things that I tell my people when they're like, because it's just that way, right? It's like life is so hard. It's like you know how you win? You don't quit. Do you know how you become queen or king? You have to fight 10,000 battles, and baby, this is just one of yours. When you get through this, you're going to have wisdom that you didn't have before. This will pass, but the knowledge that you gained from it will not. So, this is just the human condition. Sometimes it makes them feel better. Sometimes.
It can be hard when you're in the moment.
But you don't, every lesson on the way to success is necessary. And if you let it make you bitter and you let it harden your heart, then you have lost the plot, because it's not, we're not here to have an easy street. They tried to create a race of humans that didn't have to toil the earth several times. There's mythologies, right? The golden race of people, the silver race of people. Then the gods discovered that without adversity, we don't appreciate our wins. And you really, as much as I have had to fight stupid things in my life, I think that you've got to find appreciation for the battle itself and learn what you have to learn from it. I call myself the queen of shadow work, because whenever I have adversity in my life, every time there's a challenge, I go, okay, what do I have to learn from this? Because I truly do not believe that I would be having this obstacle in my life if I didn't need it, create it, draw it in some kind of way. I mean, the energy's hinky. It starts from within, right? So you just got to take responsibility for it. But also, I really think the pagan community needs to stop being bleeding hearts about people that come on and just shred other pagans,
Mm-hmm.
Shred our leaders, disrespect our stuff. People get upset about things. I get mad about stuff. I would defy you to go through my Facebook page and find a rant, because it's just not appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
What I tell people is the quality of your character comes out when you've got training. And if you have grace and quality of character and self-respect and respect for the path, you will sit down and look in the mirror and figure out what you can do to fix your problems. And if you want to blame other people and talk about how horrible other people are, and villainize your brothers and sisters or your leaders and elders, then you don't get what we're doing here. You don't get it. And I'm sorry you don't get it. And you can write funny memes about how stupid that it is that you don't get it. But the only thing that happens is those of us that get it look at those posts and go, oh, they don't get it. And it's sad. And no, the people that do get it are not going to say, hey, you silly person, you didn't get it. They're just going to move on, because when you do that, you tell everybody the quality of your character, and people with quality back the heck away from that. You're judged by the company you keep. And with a fool, no season spend, lest they be counted as your friend. The quality of your character is important, but also the quality of the people that you surround yourself with is. And so when you see people acting like that, don't be like, oh, Tata, poor you. Just don't say anything and move on. Maybe consider removing them from your friends list, because honestly, that's what I do. I go, oh, we're not friends. I have 5,000 friends. I need room for more. There are real problems out there. People have real problems and they need to be emotionally supported, but just villainizing people, not so great.
Yes, indeed.
Might be controversial, Don, but that's how I feel.
Some people enjoy controversy for the sake of controversy. And unfortunately, that's very fashionable these days.
Some people just want your attention.
Yeah. I'm not a great believer in manufactured outrage.
No, me either. And I feel like sometimes people want your attention, and if they can't get your attention in positive ways, they will get them in negative ways.
I've often observed this.
Yeah, and that's really when you shouldn't give in. Pete used to say, this is a brilliant thing Pete used to say, and I live my life by this. Of course, I'm also into Sun Tzu and the art of war. I really believe in those principles, and that all pagans should know that. But Pete used to say, figure out what your enemy wants and don't give it to them.
Yes.
And he also used to say, when you find that you have an enemy, look at their friends and look at their enemies and see which side you want to be on, and make sure you're on the right side of that.
He was a very wise man.
Sometimes it's like, okay, you can be mad at me if you want to. I'm going to be over here. And sometimes it's like, I'm on the wrong side of the street. Let me fix that. I think it's always wise to fix conflicts if you possibly can.
I have to agree, because, especially when you're in the position of leading an organization, you have to consider what's good for that organization, what's good for all of the people. And where your particular emotion might be at that moment is not necessarily anywhere near the same thing. And sometimes you just have to let that emotion go.
Yes. We call that the God box. You have to put your emotions in the God box and maintain, because it's not about how you feel at the time. It truly is, because when you're a leader in the community, you're a leader of everybody, not just the people that you like, or not just the people that like you. You're a leader of everybody. And we create lasting institutions. In order for us to do that, they have to serve everybody. Mm-hmm. So it is a delicate balance. I remember listening to, we had a president that said, I'm the president of all the Americans, not just the ones that like me. And I was like, yeah, that he gets it, because you can't lead off your personality. You have to lead off your logic, and you have to do what's best for the institution and everybody. And the institution is made up of people. Sometimes people lose sight of that too.
Yeah, I have to say that's a very good point, because I have watched some institutions who forgot that the people were also important.
Yeah,
and
a lot of those aren't around anymore.
Yeah, and there's a cause and effect there.
Yeah, there's results of that.
Well,
consequences are real.
Yeah, I have to say I've seen a lot of would-be institutions fail in my not quite 50 years in the community. And so when an organization like the ATC is successful and successful through multiple administrations, that's a real accomplishment. It's a major thing. And the principles you're talking about are what make that possible. And so often you see people who are purely leading from emotion, and they're not considering, and it shows down the line.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and often it shows pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
It shows pretty quick. Now there are leaders that, man, you get a new leader in, you're gonna have to expect that they're gonna need to learn some things.
Oh, of course.
You know, Elon Musk, bless his heart, said in the Southern way, said, he said, I just bought this thing. We're going to try a bunch of weird stuff in the next 30 days. And some things will work and some things that won't. Just, bear with us. And I was like, that's all new leadership. People get in leadership and they're like, I really didn't like this. I'm going to change it. And so I learned something in the Navy that really helped me. And because I am Persephone's my patron. I'm the goddess of change, right? Like I will change things. But in the military, when you go and take over a watch, you're supposed to give it 30 minutes before you make any changes. You go, you look at all the dials, you look at what's going on, and you just observe for 30 minutes. And then you make small adjustments. Because if you go in and be like, oh, this is all wrong, then you're going to probably have to change it all back really quickly so that you don't hit an iceberg in the middle of the ocean, right? Like there are reasons why. And that's one of the things that I learned. I came into the ATC and they did events the first and third Saturday of the month. And I'm like, well, that's really great. But what about if the Sabbath is not on the first and third of the month and the moon's not on because I worshiped when the moon was and we had the events on the day. Mm-hmm. Well, in Georgia, everybody was way closer. It was some of my coven members were 3 doors down, and that wasn't a problem. But it takes an hour and a half to get here from Seattle, right? And Pete was like, if it's the first and third, everybody knows something's happening the first and third, and they come on those days, and then we just do whatever makes sense astrologically at the time. And I was like, well, that's dumb. And so I changed it. And then I changed it back.
Yeah.
And, there was a couple of things like that. I was like, I don't like this. I don't think this is a good idea. Pete had it to where you couldn't drink at the festivals. And I was like, everybody's hiding it anyway. And he said, yeah, but they're hiding it, which means we don't have to deal with people drunk and things like that. Like they're not being a security problem because it's not okay for them to drink. So if somebody's throwing up, they don't let the Rangers know. I'm like, okay. I hate the lying and the manipulating. So we're just going to say it's okay to drink. Well, then somebody fell face first into the fire. And so now you're not allowed to drink at the festivals anymore. But also,
you usually had a good reason for all of the things.
Demeter doesn't like alcohol anyway. Like when I was doing my tour, Demeter, there's no substances, no alcohol. She wants a pure vessel. Mm-hmm. There's things she's particular about. So, but when you come and follow a leader, you got to rely on them for having made good decisions. And sometimes you want to bump up against those and test them, and you should give it.
And that's natural too.
Yeah, you should give it.
When I came out to the ATC headquarters in 2004, Pete was showing me the grounds, which have developed considerably since then. But there were many beautiful things then. And one of them was a ritual circle surrounded by benches. And he gestured to the benches and he explained to me that he used to think that it was disrespectful to sit during ritual and that people should stand through the whole thing because it really wasn't going to be that long. And then, he said, I got old. And we got benches, which is another way of saying you learn as you go, and you adjust. And speaking of that, what would you like to see for the future of the pagan community? What would you like to see develop as we go forward?
Well, we are, I've been working on raising money. Money is the problem that we have. We have a lot of thought, heart, ideas, people, intentions, all of this. Covens everywhere. There's pagans everywhere. We do not have enough money to make a difference in this world. So what I have been doing for the last 3 years is figuring out how to make more money. And the goddess does this funny thing with me, Don. She's like, hey, follow this carrot. And I'm like, I don't like carrots. And she says, okay, follow this candy bar. Okay, here we go. And then she's like, okay, I'm going to move the candy bar over this way. But we were going this direction. Yeah, but you made it that way. So now we have to go this way. And I just do what she says because I'm a good priestess. But sometimes you go on these tangents and you don't know why you're there. Mm-hmm. You're like, what am I doing here? And this is what you needed to learn, right? And so we're at a precipice in the pagan community where we can make huge changes. We are the difference that everybody's looking for. But we have been so oppressed that we apply the oppression upon ourselves. Like, how you watch women voting against their own rights and you're like, what the heck are they doing?
Yeah.
Well, they are inculcated into a culture where they believe that they should not have those rights because they've been told that they should not have those rights for so long. Well, that's where pagans are. Pagans have been told that they don't deserve for so long that they've bought into it. And what you're told, even if you don't want to believe it, that's why it's called brainwashing. If you're told something over and over, you start believing it, even if it's not what you want. And so we have to get past that programming that has been inculcated into us by the Christian dominant society, that we deserve equal rights. We deserve, people are afraid to donate to their pagan church because they're afraid the person that they're donating to is going to misappropriate the funds. Well, if that's really what you're afraid of, you should not be in that church. Go find one where you trust your leadership. And then when you see your leadership driving around in a Rolls Royce, don't give them any more damn money. But in the meantime, Don, we need educational programs which change the way people at large outside of paganism look at us. We need institutions that create generational wealth in paganism that support our leaders so that our leaders don't have to work for a living. We need politicians that are pagans. We need you to do more than vote. We need you to go run for office. My people, listen to me. Most of those public offices are ran unopposed. Do you think that people voted Marjorie Taylor Greene in over somebody else? She ran unopposed, a congresswoman with a salary. Now, people might be opposing her now, but that's how she got there, right? Yeah. So a lot of these started at a local level. I served on the school board in my local school board in Conyers. You can become let me tell you how it happened. A man came into the room after the PTA meeting and said, we need people to serve on the school board. Who will do it? And I raised my hand and they wrote me on the piece of paper. And then I was a politician. It happened so fast. I was like, wow, I'm an elected official. Wow. We need people that get involved on a local level and make a difference and bring our values into the common culture. That's what has to happen. I want to see our values on the common stage and people really taking the earth's health seriously. And there's a directive to be off of to be on clean energy by 2045, while scientists are saying we don't have one more year to act like this. And I'm like, 2045, we need faster results.
Mhm.
We need to be able to have the presence to where when Roe versus Wade gets overturned by the Supreme Court, they're calling me and you and saying, what do the pagans think about this, Don? That's
Yeah.
what we need. That is where I see us going next. And that is what I'm working on. I encourage people to donate to their churches. Like, I'm not saying donate to me, donate to your churches, because we can do something with money. We are at the point to where we can't do any more if we don't have more money in our churches. That is the thing. We need to take it serious to donate. I had a master prosperity teacher working with me on the principle of tithing, and he was like, man, this stuff is tough. And he said, this is not as hard as the next principle, and that is forgiveness. You have to tithe and you have to forgive. And I was like, whoa, I gotta forgive people. We don't teach that, right? And so these are the things that stand in our way. We're holding on to all of these old hates and traumas and pains like they're badges that protect us. And I think that if everybody could just realize that you aren't any more put upon than anybody else on the planet. We all have our lessons, and that all lessons are sacred, and not feeling sorry for yourself or mad about the fact that somebody did something to you, and just be grateful for who you are and the fact that you're on the planet, and start working to make a difference. Be generous of heart and be compassionate about the plight of others, and be willing to be strong in your faith and stand up for what you believe in. Put your money where your mouth is. Get out there and do some things. Don't just sit on Facebook and complain. Do some things. It's really important. That's where we got to go next, Don, is we need to teach our people to be more charitable with their money. And we need to teach them to be more forgiving with their hearts. And we need to teach them to get out and do some charitable work.
Very good. Now, I believe you have a major event coming up in the near future.
Oh, God, I'm so excited about Spring Mysteries Festival. Oh, goodness. Okay. So we've been doing Spring Mysteries Festival at a state park for 34 years, and then the pandemic happened, and this is number 37. We've moved it to a hotel. No, we did a Cate Sickle Festival in a hotel, and we were all pretty upset about it because we were quite attached to Fort Flagler.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, there was a really nice king-size bed that had pillows I didn't have to bring from home. There was a Starbucks downstairs. There was heat and protection from the weather. There was a private bathroom with a tub and a shower that I didn't have to keep pushing the button to get water to come out. Like, it was really nice. We got to eat in a restaurant. It was so nice that none of those physical elements were there to make you uncomfortable. And so the energy was just so much smoother. You go to a festival and you're like, the energy is really good here or not, right? Well, when you are so uncomfortable and you're sleeping on the ground or worse, in a bunk bed with a state mattress and all this stuff, it's really difficult to be spiritual and come from your highest place. But when you're in a luxurious hotel, it is a lot easier to keep that positive energy going. And Sickle was off the chain. I had so much fun. I cannot wait till Spring Mysteries. We have had record registrations. We can register as many people as you want to. At Fort Flagler, we only had 240 beds, so we really didn't have the ability to accommodate more people. We have had, record registrations. And so Spring Mysteries Festival is the Goddesses Festival. It's Demeter's festival. It's the restoration of the Eleusinian mysteries from ancient Greece. Oldest pilgrimage known to man. Older than Mecca. Oldest pilgrimage known to man. And for those of you who don't know, it's the story of Demeter and Persephone, the Kore, who gets taken to the underworld, and then she comes back, and all of the things that happen. And it's an oath-bound mystery. You get initiated into the rites of Demeter. You don't get initiated into Wicca or into paganism, but you get initiated into the rites of Demeter, which, are the likes of also Socrates, Aristotle, Plato. All of those people got initiated into the rites of Eleusis. It's a very prestigious lie. But it's an oath-bound thing because we can't tell you what's going to happen to you. I can tell you what I experienced, but then that might ruin it for you, right?
Yeah.
Because you are integral to the story. What you see and experience and what the gods say to you in your head, all of that is really the transformation. And the great thing about Eleusis that scholars say is that people would go to Eleusis and they would experience the rites, and then they would lose the fear of death. And you really do. Like I'm not afraid of dying. I'm not in a hurry. Like I got a lot of work to do. I don't want to go right now, but I'm not afraid of what's going to happen when I do, because I know. I don't believe. I don't have a faith. I don't hope. I know. And the difference between having faith and believing and knowing, like I have faith that I'm going to have dinner this afternoon, or I know I'm going to have dinner because there's groceries in the refrigerator and Dusty's going to cook them, like I hope that somebody gives me $1 so I can eat is not the same thing. And, so in the Bible how God used to live with the people on the earth, and then God went away, and we're like, wouldn't God still be around today? Like God told Adam and Eve to wear clothes or to, I don't know what God told Adam and Eve. Don't eat from the tree of good and evil is one of them. But God spoke to early man in the Bible and then stopped, right? And I don't know if you've ever asked this question, Don, but I've been like, wouldn't you still want to talk to us? We're still here. Where are you? Right? Well, Demeter and the gods of Olympus do walk the earth at Spring Mysteries, and you can talk to them, and that they're there because you feel it. And so you really have to experience the mysteries. It's one of those kinds of things that I think should be on every pagan's bucket list. If you knew that the rites of Eleusis were still happening in Greece, would you get a plane ticket and go? I know I would. Yeah. I would be like, I'm going to have to save up $2,500 to fly to Greece, and God only knows how much for a hotel room and stuff like that. Well, the good news is that it's just in Washington State. And as a single mother, I could come up with the money that it took me to get to Washington State every year, because that's where deity was. And like you pray, you have these really powerful spiritual experiences, you do ritual, you know that you had that experience and it fortifies you. It's not the same. Oberon Zell was like, yeah, we've been doing this in Church of All Worlds for 20 years. And I said, it's not the same, Oberon. And he's like, I'm probably pretty sure it is. You've never seen what we do. And I'm like, I can promise you it's not the same. So then he came and he was like, you're right. It is not the same. Nobody does what we do at Spring Mysteries. It is an iconic pagan festival. It's 37 years in running. I very much encourage every pagan alive on the planet to go to Spring Mysteries at least twice.
It is a unique and remarkable experience.
Thank you, Don. I really Don has not only been to Spring Mysteries, but has been the illustrious, it was Eumolpus, right?
Yes.
You were Eumolpus, yes, the Hierophant of the Mysteries.
I believe so. I was one of the two brothers.
One of the two brothers. Yeah. Did you do the first degree initiation for everybody or no? Yeah, see, you were in Malthus.
Okay.
Yeah, Triptolemus goes and teaches everybody the first degree initiation.
And that was Terry Riley.
You were incredible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a wonderful experience.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. A lot of work. A lot of work. but
So
worth
what are
it.
the dates?
It is always Easter weekend, and this year it is April 6th through the 9th. And we actually are online as well. It's a hybrid event. So if you're homebound and you can't go, you can still go. We found that a lot of people were able to come during the pandemic who are homebound. And so we're going to keep including them in the event and do hybrid events. So I think that's really awesome. Now the cost is the same because the effort that goes into doing a hybrid event takes an entire another crew. So it's an expensive at a hotel, but super worth it. We really want to include the people in the community who are challenged to be able to do things. And the hotel has given us an incredible deal. Like the rooms are usually $250 a night. They're only $128 a night. It's a fantastic hotel. The Hilton's the Garden Hilton SeaTac Convention Center. We've rented the whole convention center. It's fantastic, super awesome. And on the way, like a few days before, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, leading up to the event, we have events that get you there too. And some of those are public as well.
Very good. So if people want to learn more about the Spring Mysteries Festival, about the ATC, about other things that you do, where would you send them?
So if you want to have more Bella in your life, you can always just look up Belladonna Laveau and there will be endless links on Google, like 35 pages of links. That's like you, Don. You know, you look up Don Lewis and you're like, wow, there's so many places that people talk about me. But atcwicca.org, atcwicca.org is our church site, and pretty much everything can be found from there. wiccanseminary.edu is the school. Spiralscouts.org we haven't talked about, but we have the 4th largest youth organization in the United States. And then springmysteries.com is the Spring Mysteries Festival website. And you can also go to belladonnalaveau.com to find my website, but I am really easy to find on Facebook. Belladonna Laveau, 2 words. LAVAU. Yeah. So, and I'm really easy to get a hold of, and I answer all my correspondences. I'm not so popular that I can't get back to people. I do have a lot of correspondences, but I can get through them all.
That's wonderful.
Yes. Thank you.
But thank you so much for joining me. It's been a wonderful time.
Yes. You're so lovely. You're such a fun interview. And I love your energy, Don. I love my Corellian cousins. Shout out to all my Corellian cousins. I cannot wait to see you guys at the Parliament of World Religions. It's going to be off the chain. So much fun. I hope that I see some of you guys at Spring Mysteries Festival. I think Aisha's coming. I'm not sure. She usually goes to stuff like that, you know. And there's a few other Corellians who have said, hey, I'm coming to Spring Mysteries. I'm really excited to see. And let us know if we do anything for you. You know, we're cousins. We're right here for you.
Thank you so much. And we feel just the same way.
Thank you, Don.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And until next time, may you blessed be.